This is the Veterinary Project Podcast, episode 087.
Welcome to the show created by vets featuring absolutely no pets. This is the Veterinary Project Podcast, hosted by Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Leicht. Our resident veterinarians have swapped out their stethoscopes in favor of microphones to bring you the Veterinary Project Podcast, a show focused on real conversations aimed to connect this amazing profession full of remarkable people. Through the sharing of collective stories and wisdom and connecting over the many unique challenges we face, we invite you to join our community of veterinary professionals leading intentional lives. And now, here are the hosts of the Veterinary Project Podcast, Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Leicht.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Another episode of the Veterinary Project Podcast. Dr. Michael Bugg, Dr. Jonathan Leicht. What's happening today, Jonathan?
A lot is happening today. The schedule is full. I did that. Now I've got to follow through with it. And therefore, that means that your hyperactive energy, I'm hyperactive energy, always makes for a great episode, in my view.
This one will be fun. I'm excited. So we are going to dive in to 5 personal lessons from Jonathan Leicht around vet clinic ownership. So Bridgeland Vet Clinic, you opened in August 2021. So you're around 9 months officially as a veterinary clinic owner. Obviously you have, a decade of experience like in operating vet clinics and like being in the vet industry, but actually being the owner of a veterinary clinic. So I'm excited to dive in. I am going to rewind slightly here because this is comical to me. So obviously you and I chat a lot. We're recording podcasts and we're chatting outside the podcast. You run your schedule tight. Like honestly, for me, it's to the point of chaotic where I'm just like, holy shit, man, you need a personal assistant. And true to form, this is hilarious. We're recording this episode. We have a firm stop because you're jumping into the Bridgeland leadership meeting, and being the owner and being the leader, you cannot be late for that meeting.
I love that part. It is my job to ensure that I am not late for meetings, let alone the meetings that I have set up myself. And it is funny how that works in life because certain individuals could care less about that. And then there's certain individuals that could. And one of my predecessors in terms of bosses really cared about it and kind of put that into me as well. Now, as you and I were joking about earlier, I have to say no more, which is a problem in order to be able to allow my schedule the flexibility it does, both for my Mosaic work, personal life, and Bridgeland. It's always a work in progress, as anybody in this situation knows.
Yes. Okay. Well, with that, we better get going on the episode because we got good stuff in here. I saw your notes in advance. Let's jump right in here. Lesson number 1, the grind is real.
Yeah, let's talk about that one. Number 1. And for, again, the last 4.5 years prior to joining Mosaic and joining Bridgeland, I was with VCA in a big role there. And I really enjoyed that role. And there was a lot there in terms of stress and planning and forward look. But at the end of the day, I don't think that was anything comparatively to now owning multiple businesses. The grind, whether it's 6 a.m., a security note comes through, 9 o'clock at night, like I was last night with one of my veterinarians on a call that was really important. It happens at all days, nights, weekends. It doesn't matter. And truthfully, that's what's needed. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Classic quote. For sure. This is something that I'm seeing in veterinary medicine right now. The buck stops with you as the business owner. My teams help. They build the processes. They're amazing. But at the end of the day, somebody has to be ultimately responsible, and that equals the grind because you got to be ready for that. To me, that's something that even though in a big role prior, it is on a whole new level.
Okay. I have so much to say on this one. We're going to blow extra time on this topic, I think. And full disclosure for all of our listeners, I am not a veterinary clinic owner. I always want to be very transparent. I own, our real estate business, but some of the things this makes me think about is getting through that gap. So whenever you start something new, it's very exciting. So opening a vet clinic, that would be very exciting and scary, but exciting. And then there's the lull. The honeymoon period wears off, but the results aren't quite there yet, right? Everyone thinks you open a business, you make all this money, there's all these financial rewards. The truth is you got to get through that gap, and that is a grind. Like even when the excitement's gone, but the rewards aren't there yet.
At Bridgeland Vet Clinic, one of our new employees stated really, I love this comment. She said, Jonathan, I've never in 11 years, and she's been in a clinic manager role, had anybody share the financials to the degree and understanding that when you say we're in the negative, we're in the negative. Welcome to cash flow 101 in first year of owning a vet clinic. That is the reality. And if you don't emotionally know how to deal with that, the grind gets even harder. And that's what it is.
Yeah. And then the last comment I want to say is I would say this relates really well to veterinarians. When picture being a veterinary student in your third or your fourth year doing some sort of clinical case, but you know that you're being overseen by a veterinarian, a fully licensed veterinarian that has to sign their name on the case. It just energetically is totally different than when you're the veterinarian that has to make the diagnosis or, do the surgery or recommend the procedure. It's a totally different level of responsibility. And I see that as a business owner. Rosalie, my wife, I don't know what time she was up till last night because I went to bed, and, to bed later than me and up earlier than me. As a business owner, you're right. It doesn't stop.
Nope. Right. And there's where so much respect for people that then do go from being an employee to an owner. And I see that in the vet space right now. There's opportunity of field everywhere in the veterinary space. I just clap my hand because, again, I'm just one of those individuals, no special, no different than any other business owner that has looked at that as an opportunity, but also recognizes the grind is coming.
Yeah. And I do, last thing on this, and we'll move on, is I think maybe there's a myth that floats around, or the ideal of being this business owner where, the system runs and you don't have to show up. You're at the beach somewhere and you own a magical business that just prints money for you. And it's like, well, that's pretty false, but
it's the exact opposite. And there's the part where I think as business owners, we need to do a better job of sharing that with our employees. It's tough when employees are feeling it, the mental drain, all the pieces that go along with it. Recognizing that employers are also feeling at it, because especially in the vet space here, in terms of the veterinary shortage, I was chatting with a friend and colleague yesterday. If there's not enough vets, guess what? The work ends up on that owner's shoulders, and it's not going away right now. Now, is that a choice? Yes, it is, but it's a choice and honor and time that if you've built up that vet practice over time, you're not letting those producers and hang at all, or not be able to seek services. This is a tough part where we're in veterinary medicine, is it does often end up on the older shoulders, especially those that are still in actual practice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we better keep moving so you
Let's
can
do
be
it.
on time for your meeting. Okay. Number 2, you said blocks and delays in areas you didn't expect, but you also had in there, oh shit moments. I'm going with oh shit moments.
Completely. This is those things that you could not have foreseen. And if you did foresee, good on you, but then something else is going to come in the way. One of those pieces, and again, chatting this with really good friends, architectural structure of the buildings that you're looking to go into. There's always unknowns in there. They could be minor, they could be major, but you don't have any clue before you go in there what it's going to look like. And even after an engineer has gone through it, there's still then, as you're building out that property, what comes up during, whether that is plumbing. I literally just had a plumber into Bridgeland this morning fixing drains that, hey, for in my lease, they should have been fixed. Who's responsible for it? I still need to get it done because I need my team to be able to work in that space. Number 2, negotiations. There are so many negotiations that have to happen with vendors, landlords, employees, outside sources related to marketing that you cannot foresee all of the discussions that are going to need to take place in order for that clinic to be successful and, or even frankly, just to move forward. That was a big aha on top of what I already knew. 3, COVID threw a loop into everything. And COVID is that unknown that continues to say, how am I trying to foreshadow and plan what the next 6 months is going to look like when, the government isn't able to do that, when our experts aren't able to do that. Those are unknowns. Lastly, security. Unfortunately for Bridgeland, we're at a time right now where we've actually been broken into twice in the last month. First time, understood it. Second time, man, was I pissed off, and still am. And so you need to make plans. You need to also learn from that, and you need to make changes really quick. So we're still in the middle of that. How are we dealing with that? How do we ensure the safety of our employees? How do we ensure the safety of our team? And then lastly, to ensure the safety of our business. That is a complete unknown. I knew about Bridgeland, but not to the degree that now we're learning in the community. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. There's no courses in vet school on this is how you respond to people throwing rocks through your window and breaking in and stealing stuff.
Correct. Bridgeland, Mosaic, you name it. That is a reality of any business in 2022.
Yeah. I think the only thing really I want to add on this one is you're just never going to know. And so this is the opposite in some ways. Now, obviously you want to have a plan and rough idea, like obviously where you're going, but you can't map out every step.
No.
There's going to be stuff that you just have no clue that's coming your way. And so I think of like analysis paralysis, people waiting and like, I got to know everything before I'm going to make this move. It's like, you're not going to. So you just have to be comfortable being uncomfortable and facing unknowns.
Love it. And you've got to pull the trigger. You have to make a choice and then be responsible for that choice. And sometimes, I'm going to write a book at the end of my career on wrong choices, because sometimes you've made the right one based on the unknowns, your gut, your planning, and sometimes you make the right ones. Sometimes you make really good ones.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. Switching a little bit, lesson number 3, because this isn't all negative, and that's not what we're trying to portray. Things that you found came to love that you didn't expect.
Yeah. So business ownership, and having been in lead roles in the past, a couple of pieces, I had worked through project architecture at a different level in my past role. And I really do like construction and building. And that portion of the Bridgeland building in particular, working through those pieces that would seem to be insurmountable obstacles at the time. Example, walls that can't move, HVAC units, and negotiations with individuals that really have no end in sight, lack of staff in the veterinary shortage, and walking through those step by steps. Those are all pieces that I have loved to do over the past year and 2 years with Mosaic, more than I thought I would. And there is personal joy, and there's also personal gain in the experience through that process of going, well, I screwed that up the first time, the second time, third time, but I got it the fourth time. Wow, is there some personal joy in that, which is not described through making money, seeing more clients, etc., is described through walking through those obstacles. And clinic ownership, in my view, allows you that. And that is a big win.
Yeah. The thing that jumped out to me there that I love how you said it is joy in the experience. And I would argue, I would be in the camp that if you're going to go into veterinary clinic ownership simply because you want the result, which I'm making a big assumption here, but the result generally is something financial, right? You want to improve your financial situation. Or, and maybe it's like you want to input the culture of vet in a vet clinic that you want. But if you only want the result, you will not be successful, most likely, because you need to love the process of getting there. And what you just said, having joy in the experience of getting to that result, is what ultimately, in my opinion, would separate people that are going to be successful versus non-successful.
Fully agree. And jumping on that on top of it too is, and this is to point 5, so I might be a little bit ahead, but watching your team go through that experience as well. And I'll give a specific. We have a practice management software which didn't have a lot of structure to it at the start. So we had to build from scratch for a lot of the processes, and we're a brand new clinic. Watching my team evolve in their understanding of the practice management software and take it places that I sure as heck wouldn't be able to, and then watching the joy that they get out of it. As an example, checklists for pain. I just watched one of my team members say, yeah, I had time to sit down, walk through it, and here's the build, and here how it's going to fit into our practice management software, here how it's better for the client, the animal, and us as a practice. You couldn't ask for better. That joy and watching that face to face amazing, because you know everybody's going to win from that, including myself that really was not involved in that process whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that because that is point 5. You're trying to hijack the show here. Point 4, how far ahead you need to plan.
So going back to it, again, previous roles, looking at big builds, you need to be able to foreshadow 10, 15, 20 years in advance based on the investment that you're looking to put down, whether that's from a bank, whether that's within your company, etc. What I've learned as a clinic owner now, with your own money or the bank's money or a combination of your partners as well as your own in there, is just understanding that dynamic. How far forward you really do have to plan to understand what you're going with, understand your structure, and what you need to do then going backwards to a day-to-day basis to make it work. It's easy to build a plan on paper, really hard to execute it in life.
Yeah. I don't even know how to put that into words, that gap there of write the plan down. Okay, there's step 1. Now execute that in real life with life throwing all the stuff we've talked about at you. There's quite a gap that typically plays out there.
There really is. And that is a learning that, again, in 20 years, we'll have the same conversation and I'll still be learning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. On to point 5, which I would argue, and I don't know if I've ever really said this to you, but this is, in my opinion, your strongest characteristic. We've talked about the gap in the gain, or not the gap in the gain, the big leap and going zone of excellence to zone of genius. My personal opinion, this is where kind of your zone of genius lies, is in connections and in relationships. So point number 5, you live and die by your teams.
Yes and no. I will somewhat agree and somewhat disagree with you on that one. I completely, I love connecting people, love bringing people together and being the cheerleader to ensure that they have the best chance in their career. Well, my point on this in terms of living and dying by your teams is I am continually fighting my inability to communicate as effectively and succinctly as possible. What I mean by that is when I get it right, I can literally see my teams flourish in front of me. When I don't get that communication right, there's confusion, there's headache, and there's more work made as a result of it. Our clients are amazing, and we're in this service industry, but it's the team and it's that communication that brings it all together. And that, as a business owner, is so important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm optimistic. And I think, you're going to have a crazy successful career because you're aware of that, right? I would be far more concerned if you were the type of clinic owner that was, I communicate perfectly, I just don't understand why my team can't understand it. Like, if that's what you were saying, I'd be like, holy red flags, right? But the fact that you're like, sometimes I get it right and sometimes I get it wrong. And when I empower my team, like you told, with that protocol, like on pain control, when you empower them, it's like they do it better than you can do it.
Agreed. I think clinic ownership, we've got a business meeting right away here, and then I've got a team meeting again next week, and we do that very frequently within Mosaic on a weekly basis. Less words, more action, and as well, transparency in the behind the scenes. Your team's on your side. Every time I don't do that as a business owner now, confusion, more work, frustration, sometimes people leaving. That is a big deal as a business owner.
Yeah. I see that. And I mean, I'm not in your team meetings, obviously. I imagine that those are really bonding in a way, when everyone is like, okay, we're in this together. Jonathan is like, full disclosure, here are the numbers, here are the books. And I think I've said this on a previous podcast. I've worked at places where it's like, you're locked out of seeing the numbers. Like, I will not tell you any of the numbers, shut up and get to work.
Yeah. That doesn't feel good, does it?
No, it's like That's a kick in the balls, like, to be honest, like that's how it feels, like a punch to the gut. And it's like, does that make me want to like work harder under that leadership? No, it doesn't.
Yep. I agree with you. So I'm not going to 0.6 because I got in trouble last time for not going to 0.3. So those are our 5 points, I believe.
That's our 5. Yeah. Well, I'm running it. We're keeping it to 5 because that's what we said. So no, these are amazing, Jonathan. It's excellent checking in, every once in a while with what you're doing at Bridgeland, because you're always learning so much. And I know people watching this, like, this is the real stuff that, like, if you want to go open a veterinary clinic, you are going to run into these. So you may as well be aware of them.
So true. The other day when our clinic got broken into, I was pretty pumped. It was Monday morning, pretty excited to get down to the clinic early. And you're driving along the side of the road, you look over and you see the window smashed. And you literally just say, F.
Yeah.
And that's the start of your week. And then you have to regroup in about 5 minutes before your next team member comes in, because they don't need to see that from the boss. They need to see somebody that's got a plan. Mad for sure, frustrated for sure, but what's the plan? And that's on the business owner.
Yeah. I think of that, if I was pulling up to a vet clinic I worked at and I was the first one there and everything was smashed apart, my first step would be to call the owner. Like, that's the out you get as an associate. You get to just be like, wow, this is a big problem. I'll call them. You don't got anyone to call. It's like, hey, time to deal with this.
Yep, exactly. And there's joy in that as well too. Because as we've had 2 in March, then you learn as you go and you go, oh, probably should have had some pieces in there ahead of time that I didn't. That was an oopsie. Won't do that again, because it cost me a lot of money, time, frustration, and is there a potential risk safety of my team? Yep. Welcome to learning land. I think I've said that about 20 times today. Sorry for everybody on this call.
No, you don't need to apologize for that. So anyway, that's amazing, Jonathan, that like always wanting to be learning. So anywho, we got to get you out of here for your leadership meeting. This is definitely your wheelhouse. So I'm going to shut up now and let you kind of end the episode, putting you on the spot, kind of a final word for anyone considering going into vet ownership.
Snap. You didn't even give me a heads up on that. I get the last word to the veterinary community.
Your best stuff, Jonathan, comes when I just push you off the cliff and like tell you, build a parachute right now.
Dirty move. My last word then in terms of clinic ownership is for those individuals that are on the line as to whether they should do it or not, go do it. Go find mentors. The time is ripe. As my business coach here said last week, he has never seen so many opportunities, and he wasn't speaking about the veterinary space, just life in general. Yes, we have issues. Yes, we have problems. Yes, is there a change in veterinary medicine needing to be had? I completely agree with those and working to help in any little way I can. Overall, if you've got that desire and you want to do it, go do it.
Thank you for listening to the Veterinary Project Podcast. As a recap, on behalf of our hosts, the Veterinary Project Podcast will be releasing new episodes weekly, so be sure to tune in as we bring you more conversations aimed at helping you enjoy a life well lived. If you enjoyed what you heard on the show and you want to stay in the know, please like, love, and or subscribe to the podcast on the listening platform of your choosing, as we're available on all the usual suspects. If you know of others that may benefit from these conversations, we'd love it if you please share the show with them, as this will help us grow our community to reach more and more veterinary professionals. Speaking of which, if you are a veterinary professional and would like to get connected with more like-minded individuals who are joining us on this journey, please send an email to theveterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll invite you to be a part of our private Facebook group. General feedback, requests for information, or perhaps requests to be a guest on the show can also be sent to the Veterinary Project Podcast @gmail.com. Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Leicht, thank you for listening to the show, and we'll catch you again next week for another episode of the Veterinary Project Podcast. Bye for now.